sales is all energy. It's always the environment. In that right environment, it allows me to pour in, be more open, be more vulnerable. That's what a salesperson does. They put a customer in the right environment so that the customer can talk and share.
Come on. You started in door-to-door sales at 14. If you could speak to your 14-year-old version, what would you tell that person?
Take it serious. It's a real profession because nobody ever told me that. And now I go so hard inside of my business, sales education, because I say, wow, I wish I had this growing up. I'm literally teaching people how to which is our whole life.
Sales is much more than selling a product or service. Salesmanship is also selling ideas, selling concepts. As a parent, I have to sell my kid why ice cream for dinner is probably not the best choice.
A lot of people, they don't have enough reasons, more than excuses, to actually win inside of their business. They haven't closed themselves. They move around with that energy. Certainty is what closes sales. When you have full conviction in that belief, people start following along. So what do I teach somebody how to do? Always number one,
Welcome to the VIP, the Valor Impact Podcast. My name is Jon Soriano. We believe that you can have it all, that you can be successful in all areas of your life, your faith, your family, your fitness, your finance, that you do not have to choose between one or the other. And as you listen in, take notes, take it all in, ask yourself, how can I apply this today? How can I go out there and execute today? Because we're gonna teach you a wide range of things, from sales, from leadership, to finances, to mindset, to even how to have success in sales and in your marriage. And my only ask is that you like this video, you subscribe to it, you share it with somebody in the sales industry, and that you also ultimately go out there and execute on everything that you want. Welcome to the Valor Impact Podcast. I'm your host today, Jon Soriano, where we interview the greatest minds in sales, people who embrace hardships, people who do hard things. And today we have someone that I follow for many, many years. I've known him probably for, I think I heard about you 5-6 years ago initially. Yeah. And you've been a virtual mentor, but now we finally got to meet. And now I get to interview the one, the only Daniel G, the #1 world sales trainer of 2024 and 23. And so Daniel, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me. And we just finished off an amazing event.
We did.
Amazing event. Great culture, great energy, and it felt like home. Right?
Yes.
So I always say sales is all energy. So it's like, it's always the environment. So even for me, being a trainer in that right environment, it allows me to pour in, be more open, be more vulnerable. That's what a salesperson does. They put a customer in the right environment so that the customer can talk and share.
Yes.
Like we always focus on closing, but it's like, what environment is your customer in?
Right.
Because sometimes we think we have introverted customers, but really you create the environment so you could take sometimes an introvert and get them to share a little bit more. Because I don't believe everybody's just extroverted fully or introverted fully. You can sometimes have an introvert, but if they're beside a close friend, they'll open up and talk.
Come on.
Right? So that's our job as salespeople, to shift from being from salespeople to leaders and to create that environment for our customers to actually open up and talk. Because their level of vulnerability sometimes will be our level of vulnerability too as well, right?
Yeah.
So it's very nice. It's the culture you created. It's like such a receptive culture back and forth that we were just, it was just a couple hours flew by like nothing.
Come on.
Yeah.
Already went right into it. I love it.
Yeah.
No, it actually reminds me, I heard this from a mentor years ago. A seed is always perfect potential, but it's just that potential until it's put in the right environment.
Correct.
If I take an apple seed and I plant it in the desert, doesn't matter how much I water it, doesn't matter what I do, the seed could be perfect. It's not going to grow because it's not the right environment. And so you're right. Getting in the right environment is what can really activate the potential that's really in all of us.
Yep.
And that's why I love sales. Because sales is a way to really activate a great potential that's in all of us. And so super excited to have you here. And, one of the first questions I want to ask you, one thing I love about your story is that you started in door-to-door sales at 14. Not many people can say they did that. I mean, I wish I started at 14. But now, over the last few decades, what have you learned from, Daniel G at 14 to now? And then also, if you could speak to your 14-year-old version, right? And you could mentor your 14-year-old version. I really want to know, what would you tell that person?
When you were asking me that question right now in my head, I had this voice coming from saying, take it serious. It's a real profession. Because nobody ever told me that, right? So I knew it made money, but nobody ever said, hey, take this serious. It could be a serious career and it could be a serious profession. I wish somebody was constantly in my ear saying, hey, this is a serious career. This is a serious profession. I didn't have much mentors to look up and say, hey, look at this beautiful house. You know, this is what you can have. You know, I was like my own mentor at one point inside of my sales business. I made the most in my company. So there was no like that. And that's where companies fail.
Yeah.
Like, you know, when you can't see above you and then like, you know, and then you're just at the top, right? So I wish somebody just told me, hey, take it serious. This is a serious career. I wish somebody showed me, hey, look at all the different jobs inside of sales, right? I never had somebody tell me that. So I was always 1 foot in, 1 foot out. Even when I was doing exceptionally well, whether that was 14 or at 21, I would still have that side of me saying like, okay, but what after this?
Wow.
Until eventually I said, oh, let me just own this. This is it.
Yeah.
This is what, you know, this is what I'm great at.
Yeah.
Right? And it necessarily didn't even mean I was passionate about it. I was great at it. And that greatness was, I had the ability to serve other people, make money for my family. Because sometimes if you always chase what you're passionate about, mine would have just been soccer and DJ. I was passionate about playing soccer and I love DJ. You know, I could DJ and I could play soccer. So that would have been my passions.
That explains the big quads you have.
Yeah, it's just from running and playing soccer. That's it, dude. I don't even work out, to be honest with you. I just run since I was young. But the truth is, like, I wish somebody said, take it serious. That's it. Just take it serious.
Wow.
This is not a joke. You know, it's really not. We were just talking to one of your reps outside, and it's so cool to see somebody that says, I can bring in 1.2 in a year. You know, one of the guys that you work with, one of your business partners, 1.2 in a year. And it's like, he didn't have to develop some fancy ass product in a warehouse.
Yeah.
He was a salesperson, a sales professional of an organization. And that's no joke money. That's money for yourself, for your family, your kids.
Yeah.
And now I go so hard inside of my business, sales education, because I say, wow, I wish I had this growing up. I wish I truly had a mentor teaching me sales. I wish the school system taught us the art of communication. Yeah. They never taught us the art of communication. They never said, like, I can't fathom how we're around 8 billion humans in the world and nobody has taught us to grow up and how to communicate with the people that we're around. People, like relationships. Yes. What do you do when you're in an argument? These are things that we go through every single day. When there's a problem inside of your life, how do you respond to a problem? And it's crazy. Sometimes I sit down, I'm like, I'm literally teaching people how to respond to an objection, which is our whole life. Why didn't our teacher ever tell us the best way to win an argument is never have an argument? Yeah. Like when somebody wants to yell at you, okay, I understand. I'm sorry. Yeah. Like I remember once I was sitting down, I was 15 years old, John, and I'm sitting down and I'm listening to this disc of Jim Rohn, okay? And you know who Jim Rohn is? Yeah, yeah. And I'm listening to in a CD player, and I'm going out to go knock. And he says he's like, you want to know the 2 most powerful words in the English dictionary? I'm sorry. And I'm just like, wow. He's like, I'm sorry is the start of every new conversation. Wow. It's the start of every new relationship. It's the start of everything. And I said, why has my teacher never told me that? I'm sorry. I'm like, he's like, it's the easiest way to keep talking and keep building it. Sales, whatever it is.
Hey, that's actually profound marriage advice right there. And I've always thought, I tell my guys too, it's like, hey, sales is much more than selling a product or service. Salesmanship is also selling ideas, selling concepts. As a parent, I have to sell my kid why ice cream for dinner is probably not the best choice, right? And it's funny, I actually use the concept of looping, right? I don't know if you know, like looping in sales, right? Where homeowners is an objection, but you acknowledge them, but then you quickly kind of move on, right? Because it's like a smoke screen maybe. And so our 2-year-old, he started fighting naps about 6 months ago. Right? And so I started one day, I was like, oh, I wonder if looping works on my 2-year-old. And so whenever he wanted a nap, I would hear him like, okay, buddy, I know you want a nap now, but do you want to take a nap now or later? Oh, okay, later. Okay. And then I started 2-option closing him. All right, well, do you want to take a nap with your JJ or with Bluey? Oh, JJ. Okay, you want to take a nap with this much milk or this much milk? Yeah, I didn't care what he chose because whichever one he chose, I'm guiding him towards my desired outcome. And then you know what? By the start of it, he didn't want to go to bed. By the end of it, he was stoked to go to bed. And so I want people to understand that selling is much more. It's going to make you a better husband, a better mother, a better father, a better leader in your community. And that's why I love sales. And so one thing I want to ask you too is, you've trained over 2 million people, like, and counting, right? Huge numbers. What have you seen are some of the common maybe traits that the top 1% have? Like, what do they know? What do they do that the other 99% probably don't have, but maybe one day want to be? Because you've been around all sorts of people, from great people to not so great people.
Right.
And just what are some of those habits, some of those maybe attitudes, or who do they surround themselves with, like anything like that that gets them in the top 1%?
Yeah, I think the first thing we talked about it today at the conference, I said, a lot of people haven't, they don't have enough reasons more than excuses to actually win inside of their business. They haven't closed themselves. They don't have enough reasons as to why, the customer needs it. And when you have enough reasons inside of your head and you still go to bed with a maybe, that's when you get maybe results inside of the business. I said most salespeople are still not closed on their industry, their profession, or themselves. So they wake up in the morning and there's still a maybe inside of their head and they move around with that energy. And I'm like, certainty is what closes sales. And I'm like, a great salesperson is very certain, right? They're waiting for the right time. Like, you never control timing of a yes. You can just control your efforts towards yes, but you never try to control time. And sometimes, weak sales reps, they try to control time frames. They're like, I need to get a yes today. It's like, you just control your efforts. When you control your efforts, you eliminate emotions, and then you get to the yes a lot quicker. So that's the first thing. And the second thing, which I think I don't want people to, brush over, is what you said was, people like to feel like they want to make their own decisions inside of life. So as long as you have a good ethical product that serve somebody, it's in your duty to basically guide them to the desired result, right? That's what influence is.
Yes.
Right? Instead of telling somebody, you have to drink milk, now I don't want to drink milk.
Right.
But saying, hey, by the way, do you want to drink it out of the blue one, or do you want to drink, right? Now it's like, oh, I'm making the decision, right? And that's all the optional closes and the tie downs have been going on forever. And that's what I was saying today. I said, sales is about, there's a difference between pressure and urgency. Pressure is a conflict of internal values. And that's telling somebody to do something. You got to buy today because it's on discount. Urgency is framing it, saying, hey, by the way, what happens if you don't buy?
Yeah.
And then the customer generates a response inside of their own head. So I think the differentiation is great sales reps understand rather than knowing word for word. And what that means is somebody's going to try to understand a script. The other sales rep's going to try to understand, okay, how does my customer buy, number one, and how do I sell, number two? Why do I say what I say? Not just what do I got to say, it's why am I saying those words? Okay, that word creates this frame. Now I get it.
Yeah.
So now you will never forget because you understand it. We forget everything we're taught in school because we're just studying it to go to a test the next morning, right? A great sales rep understands their customer, understands their fears, their anxiety, and they're really not battling their customer. They're dancing with their customer. They're trying to battle them.
Right.
See, that's what sometimes a sales rep, they'll go in and they're like, we're going in for war. I'm like, wait, you're literally going to that home and you're trying to truly, you're trying to truly figure out what this person's scared about and solve their problems.
Yep.
Like when you sell from the heart and you turn off your brain, people can feel it, right? Like I tell my sales team this 24/7. When I get on their calls and they're on a Zoom call and they're trying to close somebody, and then I get on a Zoom call, and I wish I wasn't Daniel G, because now they're like, oh, but now because you're Daniel, now it's so much easier. Right, which is obviously a big chunk of it. Oh, Daniel's now on a call, close me, I'll just buy. But what I'm showing them, I said, guys, look, I'm on the call and I'm trying to figure out. Sometimes I'll tell the customer, wait, pause. I was about to talk about something, but go back to what you just said.
Yeah.
I'm trying to sell by the heart and people feel it.
Yeah.
Can we actually solve this person's problem?
That's right.
What are you actually scared about? Right? And there's no script that can ever outbeat selling from the heart. Too many people sell from their mind. So they're too A, B, C, D, E, F, G. And I say, no, people have to feel your heart, that you're genuinely interested in that person's best interest. And I said, that's when you gain common ground with somebody.
Yeah, it reminds me something that we say is hey, we are professional problem solvers.
Correct.
So we are, to the degree of how many problems you solve, and the bigger they are, then great, you make a lot of money. And in solar, for example, there's a big problem. Utilities are very expensive, right? People here are paying an arm and a leg just to have their lights on, have AC, and so we get to provide a solution for them that just makes a lot of sense. And I want to go back to what you said about selling, because salesmanship is just conviction. That's all it is. You have to have conviction in your product. And I think one of the challenges I know I have, at least in this industry, can be you don't meet a lot of sales reps that are users of solar, because to be users of solar, you also have to own your own home. But I know when I became a user of solar, for example, my conviction was even higher than before, because now I'm a consumer, I see the benefit, and all of a sudden I'm leading a different way. And so if people can understand that, hey, you need to believe what you're selling.
Uh-huh.
Like, don't just do it for the money. Don't do it because it pays well. No, believe in the product. Believe in the service. There's this great book called Business Secrets from the Bible, and I'm big in my faith, and it's a phenomenal book. And it's one of the things it says is that God has set up this world to where we are incentivized to solve the problems of his sons and daughters. And so it's an incentive plan that, hey, if we can solve the problems of other people, then great, we make a lot of money. And so that leads me to another question I want to ask you is about team building, because I know you're great sales, but also I love that you love also leadership. And for me, that's what gets me fired up. I love leadership. I love scaling. Like, I love sales, but my number one thing is leadership. What have you seen are some of now the traits of like the top teams, right? Like, what are they doing? How are they performing? I know earlier we talked about how environment, right? That's of course very important. The team better have, of course, a great culture. But what are some other things you've seen a great team has?
Yeah, I think that the first thing is, when we were talking outside that leaders lead from the front, right? If I feel I joined an organization and for one point subconsciously, when you're a leader, your team is always thinking, I hope this person never slows down in their work, their learnings, their own personal growth and everything like that. Because you think sometimes, you work, you build, you recruit a team member, and you don't realize that your team's actually watching you saying, I hope my leader never slows down in front of me. They really do hope that. Like, they want to be led by somebody that never stops their own personal growth and their own personal production. We don't understand that. Sometimes we slow down in front of their team. They're like, ooh, why did I choose this person as leader? Number one. Number two, I think leadership stems from sometimes seeing the unseen. And what I said today at the conference, I wanted people to understand that I said, not everybody has to understand and see what you see, because then why would they choose you as a leader? They just got to have a little bit of belief that you know what you're doing, but they don't have to fully see it the way you see it. Like that's the point of being a leader. You could see the things that nobody else sees.
Right.
And when you have full conviction in that belief, people start following along.
Yeah.
People will start saying, okay, you know what? I believe in this. But the moment you have any sort of doubt, right? Like when I was saying, can't you hear those noises in the stadium? And they're like, what? I'm like, oh, I see this event like the VIP room for next year.
I love that story.
Right? And they said, well, what do you mean? And I truly believe that. I said, no, this is the VIP room for next year, right? And what do you know? People will always follow somebody that can lead them better than they can lead themselves.
Wow.
They're waiting for that. People are committing to people that are more committed than they are themselves. Whether that's from a one-on-one interaction buying level or it's from, me leading my team. I always, number one, I need to continuously grow in front of my team.
Yes.
I need to continuously do in front of my team. Meaning just like we talked about outside, take a phone call, close a person in front of them, work on my health, my fitness, my faith, my relationships, everything, constantly level up in front of my team. So they're like, I'm constantly saying to my team, try to beat me, number one, but number two, I'm not slowing down.
Yeah.
Organizations die because the people at the top, they slow down, and now there's that lid where people are saying, oh, that's it?
Yes.
There's no growing further, right? So the leader constantly has to show that their team, that they constantly want to level up. And I've been around everybody in the industry. And what I've noticed is the people that continuously grow their organizations, I'm wowed by when I'm sitting beside somebody that's done 100 million in sales, that individual has a pen and a notepad sitting in front of me, in front of their team. And I tell my team, I said, that's why he has a $100 million organization.
Yeah.
He said, what do you mean? I said, guys, his ego was gone out the door and he's learning in front of his team.
This reminds me of that famous scene from Batman and what's his name? Bane, right? Bane, and he goes, victory has defeated you, Batman. And I think success takes out more people in the upper echelon than adversity does. My mentor, something he said, John, for every 50 people that can handle adversity, only one can handle prosperity. Because adversity takes out a lot of people at the bottom level. But at the top level, those people can usually handle adversity. What takes them out is success. They get comfortable, they stop innovating, they stop doing the small things that got them there in the first place. And I love you say that, because you being here is actually an example of us always innovating, because we've done these conferences now for going on 3 years. And every conference, I'm like, we do them twice a year. I'm like, every one, I'm like, how can we make the next one better? And then for this one, I was like, all right, we got to get like a prolific speaker at this, and the stars align, and boom, here you are. Now I'm already like, how the heck am I going to on top of the next one. I'm like, who can I then go beyond Daniel G?
Well, we'll just do round two.
We'll do round two. Let's go.
But listen, I said today what I think, if people understood, I said, when you sit down and you visualize that this is supposed to happen, when it happens, because remember we said, success takes out a lot of people at the top, and I've seen it all. And I said, the reason why that happens is because the truth is that person never thought it was supposed to happen.
Wow.
And because when they didn't think it was supposed to happen, they got comfortable, they overspent, they got over shock. That shock state, even that shock state gets them scared and they don't know what to do. So they get scared. It's like when somebody wins lottery, why do a lot of people, because they didn't think, okay, now I'm worth it. So you can never outperform your own worth. So when they win, they get shocked. That shock makes you do crazy things, makes you overspend, whatever the case is. That happens with leadership because you don't feel like it's supposed to happen. And you haven't sat down and you really, right now, being at $0, you haven't sat down and said, no, I'm supposed to become a millionaire. It's just gonna take time. How do I earn it on the way? I don't deserve it right now, because if I deserve it right now, it'd already be on my plate. Yeah. When people say, well, you deserve it, I say, well, how can you earn it? Because if you deserved it now, that means you would already have it.
That's right.
You will deserve it when you earn it.
Yeah.
So, and a great way to show, because sometimes when we use that word deserve, it's almost like you're gonna take your foot off the pedal. Wow. I love when reps come up to me and they don't say, or when mentors tell you, you don't deserve this, you can earn this.
That's right.
And when you deserve it, it will already be there. If you deserve the $1 million business, it would already be there. When you ask, how can I earn it? You're telling God, the universe, I wanna work for this. I wanna give it enough withdraws.
That's right.
And then eventually, whenever my deposit comes, which I cannot control, the deposit's different for everybody, right? When it comes, it's different from everybody. That's why I love timing.
Yeah.
Sales is timing, your leadership is timing, your business is timing. But then going back to it again, I say, I think every rep has to know that success is supposed to happen.
Yes.
Every business owner has to know success is gonna happen, because it will take you out if you don't think it's gonna happen.
Yeah.
Right?
No, it's so good. Now, you also have a tagline: I help salespeople become rich.
Right.
Right? Am I getting that right?
Yeah.
So after getting to know you, though, more intimately, I know rich for you is much more than finances.
Right.
Share with us what your definition of rich is.
Well, listen, so I grew up in a household where we weren't allowed to talk about money, wealth, rich, finances, anything like this, like nothing abundant. We thought abundance was this negative thing, like talking about like having more. We weren't taught that like the more you have, the more you can give. I was never taught that. Like I was never taught like, hey, the more money you make, the more money you can give back. The bigger business you build, the more people you can help out. I was never taught that, right? So for me, I believe, well, money is just one thing of rich. I've met very poor people with a lot of money. So have you. Met a lot of poor people with a lot of money. People will say, well, how does that happen? I say, well, imagine if you understood what true riches are, which is the first thing is faith, peace, family, relationships, friends, all riches. And then people say, well, like, I'm chasing this money thing. I'm like, imagine you got money, but money can never buy those. It can never buy health, can never buy peace, can never buy faith, can never buy happiness, can never buy any of those things. I said, then you're poor, you lost. I'm like, rich is on the things that money can't buy.
That's right.
Rich is in the things money can't buy. So what do I teach somebody how to do? I teach somebody how to communicate better inside of their life. I teach somebody how to push to their full potential. I teach salespeople to take it serious. I teach all that to strengthen all this. And by the way, I said health, which is part of the riches too as well. I tell people, don't play it in reverse. Don't think you're gonna make money and then become healthy. Don't think you're gonna make money and then have good relationships. You already have current relationships. You don't have to be married to be in a good relationship. There's already relationships around you. If you can't pour into the current relationships around you, when you have a kid, you don't flick on the switch.
Right.
Oh, now I'm gonna be a good father. You already got maybe a mother or an aunt or an uncle beside you.
Yeah.
You could start doing that now, because the brain just doesn't work. Oh, it's just gonna be a complete 360 switch.
Yeah.
No, you pour in right now into your health. Everybody plays it on reverse. They say, when and if I get money, then I'm gonna be healthy. When and if I get money, then I'm gonna be peaceful. When I'm gonna get money, no, you do this, you get this a lot quicker.
Yeah.
Right?
This reminds me, we have 7 values within our organization, and one of them is you can have it all. and it says, we believe true success is winning in the areas of faith, family, fitness, finance, right? The 4 F's as we call them, because and also in that order.
Right.
And finance is the last one. Because, you know, we tell our people like, hey, if you work with us and all you've done is made your first 100 grand, $500,000, million, and that's it, I'm like, we actually failed you. Like, we want you to work here, and we want you to actually be a better husband, a better father, a better son, daughter, leader in your community. We want you to take fitness seriously. Like, you know, we have this version, we call it Valor Hard, right? It's, you know, from the 75 hard thing, but, you know, we run it, you know, like every few months with our people because we care about their fitness, you know, and even my wife, you know, she's really intentional about pouring into the wives of the leaders. You know, they have their own chat, they all hang out. Like, my wife did a Galentine with all the leaders' wives because we want success to also be about their marriages, you know, and I'm even the kind of guy that, look, I'll call my leader and just straight up be like, hey, are you and your wife having sex? Because I care about their marriage. Because I know if they're going through it and they're not, I'm like, okay, it's only a matter of time before that impacts the business, right?
Right.
And something a mentor taught me, he said, John, if people are struggling, it's usually not work related. It's actually it's usually something personal.
It's always.
And so that's why I love that you can have it all, because I think people don't understand that success, right? And in this world of instant gratification and Instagram and all this, people think success is the money, the cars, the girls, whatever, all those things. And man, that's actually such a small part of it. And I love, you said it, you said peace. I mean, you cannot put a price tag on peace.
No. Like, you know, when people ask me, they say like, you know, I was with a friend and she was having struggles in a relationship with her boyfriend. I said, you know, have you ever asked him, is he at peace? You know, because that's probably what he's searching for right now, is a peace of mind.
Yes.
And that's the most valuable thing sometimes in a world of chaos. Just trying to search for peace of mind. Ask him, hey, what brings you peace? What truly brings you peace? Like, I know inside of my life what brings me peace, right? And I know the things that like shift me away from peace. So like, when you can identify that, nobody asks himself that. Like, hey, who and what brings me peace? Like, you don't really think about that. You're always going into the chaos. You're not thinking about who and what brings me peace. So like, for example, people ask me like, hey, why do you run and why do you jog? I said, that's one of my things that bring me peace.
Come on.
Because somebody will say, well, go to this CrossFit class with me. I'm like, no, I don't want to do that. I know it's fitness, what I'm doing, which is running. But I'm like, this is my time.
Yeah.
You know, I don't want to see somebody in the gym. This is me. Somebody else can be peace at the gym. I don't want to see people at that point. I'm always around people 24/7. This is the Daniel G time, right? And I said, that's important to fill up the cup. And when people ask me like, well, how do you got all this energy, whatever the case is? I'm like, I focus on all these things.
Yeah.
I don't, besides you guys see me drink a coffee, etc. But for me, I said, the reason why I got all this energy is because all these things are full.
Yes.
These things are unaligned. I don't got the energy inside of business.
Yeah.
Right? So they think it's in the reverse. They think like, oh, get the energy in the business, everything else is gonna be okay. No, I got it because I try to work on my relationships, my fitness, everything inside of my life, right?
No, for me, the equivalent of that, like, people think my wife and I are crazy. We dedicate probably, I'm not kidding, 20 to 30 hours minimum on average to our church. You know, we're really involved in our church. And it's all volunteer based. Per week. We're not paid for it.
Right.
But why do we do it? Because of the peace it brings us. Because we feel so fulfilled when we get to serve, when we get to pray for people or love on people or just like maybe, you know, disciple them or whatever the case is, you know, and people were like, it's funny that when they see how active we are, they're like, oh, so they pay you, right? I'm like, no. And they think we're crazy for doing it for free, but it's because of what you said. It's like, man, you cannot put a price tag, because from that cup, then I can go in the business world, in the marketplace, and operate at a high level because I'm coming from a place of, you know, purpose and fulfillment.
Service, yeah. You know, it's funny that you say that. The moment you said that, I don't think I've ever said this, but this is also going to be interesting because to some people it might look like chaos, but I think the most peaceful times in my life is when I'm on stage and I'm at an event, there's 10,000 people, and I'm going at it. Nothing, like, I am at my most peaceful moment where nothing else but those people matter in front of me. Every problem inside of my life is gone. It's like the most magical moment, the most peaceful moment when other people are like, oh my God, what's this guy on? What's he taking? I'm like, I am so at peace right now. Like, that is like my most quiet moment when it looks to the world so loud.
Yeah.
But in my head, I'm at like the most peaceful moment inside of my life. And the reason being is because where my heart's at.
Yeah.
My heart's in complete service There's nothing else. And when you said I donate 20, 30 hours a week to my church, right? I go back to the starting of my career. Everything I did up until really a year and a half ago never made financial sense. Never made financial sense. Every event that I ever did, it was at break evens, negatives, even sometimes now, right? But that was like my service to the world. I knew I said I was given a gift to lead inside of this industry. I knew it. So I'm just like the messenger. So when somebody asks me, they say, go to India to go do a sales training. Yeah, but I'm going negative $10,000 on that sales training. I go, but there's no financial sense. Account manager saying, don't do this. Steve said, everybody's around, hey, don't go do, what are you doing? Why are you going to Africa? Why are you going to India? Why are you going to South America? Why are you going to Europe? You're losing money. But to me, number one, it was peace.
Yes.
And the reason why now I figured it out is because I was in complete service mode. I just knew I had to do it.
Yeah.
I always knew I was going to get taken care of.
Yeah.
It didn't matter. I wasn't in the intention, like, I have to go do this and then go sell that on stage.
Wow.
Never, right? And so I just operate like, and that's why I said today, you guys have to understand that you are a gift more than you are an interruption inside of life. You are a gift. And today when I said you can never outperform what you think you are inside of your own head, I said, if you just knew you were walking inside of life and you were a gift to somebody, you could truly help that person's finances or a compliment to somebody. Every single person walks around with a sign on their head saying, please understand me and help me.
Yes.
And I said, as a leader, you can identify that. You're not saying that person's rich, they don't go through problems.
Yeah.
You say, no, I'm a gift. Let me go compliment that person. Let me go give my gift to somebody. So I think the differentiation, when you asked me in the beginning, what's the differentiation between somebody that's amazing at sales and sometimes somebody that's struggling, is that the person that's amazing at sales feels like they're a gift to somebody. The other person feels like they're an interruption.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, I don't want to interrupt this person's day. And then they knock lightly.
Yeah.
The other person knocks, hey, how are you? Let me try to bless this person with something. Right?
No, I love that. It reminded me of, one of the great leadership principle or tactic I learned is, if you ask people normally, hey, how are you? They'll go, oh, I'm good. But then if you ask again, but you say it in a softer tone, like a lamb, like you said earlier.
Yeah.
Like, no, hey, really? Like,
how are you?
How are you? And I go, oh, well, I'm kind of going through it here. And then they open up. And that right there, you can gain so much relational equity because you show that you care about them. And it also reminds me when you were talking about, peace and all that, I'm going to give you a word that you maybe haven't heard before. Have you ever heard the word convergence?
Convergence?
Convergence.
No.
So convergence is essentially what you're feeling. And convergence is when your authentic self paired up with the right lane, the right tools, and the right people, all with God's power. When all that aligns together is when you have what's called convergence, right? Because when you're on stage, that's your authentic self. That's who you are. Now, there are some people out there who that's not how they're wired. They're not wired to be that way. Great, that's not their authentic self. Right? But when you discover your authentic of who you were created to be, man, that feeling that you feel on stage. Because I'm the same way. When I get on a platform, I'm like, I come alive. And some people are like, I could never do that. I'm like, maybe you could, maybe you couldn't. I don't know. But if that's not your authentic self, that's fine. Find something else. So I want to come to a close and just ask you one last question. What's Daniel G's legacy? I think all of us are on this earth. We want to make an impact. I know you're somebody that believes in, Jim Rohn's famous saying of service to many leads to greatness. What does that look like for you? When you're at your, end of your days, 100 years old, because, you're very healthy. I'm sure you'll live to be to
hopefully
100. Yeah. What do you want to look back and be like, man, this is the service I left to the world. What's Daniel G's legacy?
Yeah, I wish I could just tell everybody that, this was a person that always played to their full potential. And I always try to bring out the potential out of people. And that was always my duplication. I said, my motivating thing inside of life was, how far can I push the potential?
Yeah.
How far can I push it? Because we're never taught to push the potential so far. And we don't understand, we're God's highest form of creation, human beings, right? And we're never taught, hey, push the potential a little bit more. We're always taught with a lid. So I said, all my weaknesses inside of life that I was critiqued for, I was complimented for in the end. So I wish people can look at their weaknesses almost like a skill set, because I had a lot of weaknesses. I had a speech problem, I had a writing problem, I couldn't read. I was horrible. I was born and raised in Toronto, Canada, I said today, but I was put in ESL. I had these things where I said ADD, ADHD, and now you fast forward 20 years, that's my superpower. My superpower is that I have high energy and people, of course, I think I'm the most focused ADD person somebody can meet. But I truly believe where I'm like, you have this gift inside of you where it's like, there's just a potential that you're scared to push, but in reality, it's never that bad. There's no shark in the water ready to bite off your leg if you go knock on another door. You go try something new inside of life. For me, I always did things the way I wanted to do things because it truly wasn't me. Just like you said, it was God. I'm not in control of any of this, so I always just pushed it. I said, well, I'm just gonna go try it. I always did things the way I wanted to do things. I've lost a lot of business deals because they said, hey, by the way, you can't be like this, you can't be too high energetic or whatever the case is. And I said, the problem is inside of life, when you try to shoot for unanimous love, you have nothing at all. You will never have unanimous love from everybody. Unanimous love means basically you have to be loved by everybody. There's nobody that does something great inside of life that will always have full unanimous love, being loved by everybody. The president of the country, nobody's gonna have unanimous love.
Yeah.
But we're taught inside of life, you should have unanimous love. Well, that's impossible. In order to do something great, whether it's recipe Kobe Bryant, LeBron James, anybody, they don't have unanimous love.
Yeah.
You have to think of that very early on inside of building your business. You're never gonna please the whole crowd,
Yeah.
right? So you take care of yourself, the people around you, and I think it's just, again, I don't know about the legacy so much, but I definitely don't want to go to bed when this is all said and done and be like, what if?
Yeah, wow.
I don't want that feeling to hit.
Yeah.
So I'm just saying yes. I'm in that mode where I'm like, all right, let's rock it out.
Come on, dude, let's go. Well, dude, I'll actually have one last ask.
Yeah.
And this is a little improv. I wasn't planning on doing this.
Sure.
But, dude, you are such a light to this world. You are, you've been someone I've looked up to from afar. And I've watched your content for years and your videos, and you've inspired me, and I'm sure many, many others. And so I want to ask you, before we close out, can I pray for you?
Yeah, for sure.
I just want to bless you with a prayer. Can we do that?
Let's do it.
Okay, let me pray for you. Father, I thank you for Daniel G. I thank you for the man that he is. Right now, I thank you that you bless him with opportunity. I thank you that you bless him with divine strategies and wisdom to grow his company. I thank you, God, that there are going to be many doors that will be opened. I thank you, God, that if there's that you will continue to unlock the authentic version that you have created him to be. I thank you that you've gifted him with a tremendous gift of communication, a tremendous gift of salesmanship, of leadership. And I thank you that every single day, God, that there are more and more gifts and talents that are unlocked in his life. Right now, we come against any spirits that try to prevent him from going to the next level. And we thank you that you empower him with your love, with your grace. And I thank you that you surround him around men that sharpen him, men that encourage him, men that lift him up, men that say, come on, dream bigger, go for more, because there's more in the tank. And so I thank you for all that you're doing to your son, Daniel G. I think that everywhere the sole of his foot treads upon, that you've given him that, whether he steps on stages in America, in South America, in Europe, God, that wherever he goes, he is a light, that people meet him and they just say, like, man, there's just something to you that just helps them get over whatever it is they're going over. And so we thank you that he continues to be alive. We thank you that you bless him with supernatural energy to continue to do more and become more. And God, I also bless him for him being a future husband, a future father one day, because I know he's going to be such a great husband. I thank you that right now you bless his future wife in Jesus' name, his future children in Jesus' name. And so we thank you for all that you're doing. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
Daniel, thank you so much for being on.
Great.
You're welcome, dude.
Thank you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for being on today's episode, man. It was an honor to have you.
Yeah.
And we'll catch you guys on the next one. Let's go.